Hello. Oh, it does work. Great. Hi, everyone. So I'm Grace Barnett. I'm the head of membership and database at Unlock Democracy.
And I'm Sean Roberts. I'm Director of Campaigns and Digital. And so we're going to talk about how we've grown our membership and supporter base with Engaging Networks over these last 2 years. So just a quick bit of background about Unlock Democracy. We're a small non-profit. There's 5 of us. We were formed in 2007 from a merger between Charter 88 and the New Politics Network. A little bit of history there. New Politics Network, actually descendant of the British Communist Party, interestingly enough. But there we go. We're a membership organisation, and our members elect our council, which oversees our work. So we're a democratic organisation fighting for democracy. And we work on pretty much a really broad base of democratic issues, some sort of big systemic things like proportional representation, House of Lords reform, but also some more the sort of nitty-gritty things like voter ID, automatic voter registration, decency in politics, a lot of things that have kept us quite busy over this last couple of years, which has definitely helped in terms of what we've been doing. So where do we start? 2 years ago, back in the spring of 2021, the organisation had I think a pretty tough few years. So membership had been declining, the support space has been shrinking, donations have been falling. And a new team came in, which actually helps a lot in those sort of scenarios. There's a nice little picture of us all over there. And we realised that we needed to change things. And actually, when you have a lot of new people, that is always the moment to try and change things. Because, what we discovered when we started, poking around, some of the data management stuff that was going on in the organisation, it worked because it had terrific people working on it for years. But when you've got a 60-page reconciliation process to go through each month to put together where all the money's come from, all the different systems, we can't keep going on like this. So we really sort of set out to try and change things. And we knew what we needed to do, because if we wanted to achieve our organisational goals, like change politics, we needed to grow. We just weren't big enough to actually have an impact in the way that we needed to. So we needed to grow our supporter base. We needed to get more members, more donations, and we needed a database that actually enabled us to do it. And what was also incredibly important, because we want to be an organisation that tried stuff out, is that we have to be able to measure stuff. If you don't know what's working, then where do you go? So we really set out to get a system that should enable us to do what we need to do in terms of growth, but also be really strong in nice, clear, simple measurements to enable us to see whether the stuff we were doing is working. So we switched to Engaging Networks, and I think it's probably still on the website. 2 years ago, we did a session at Engaging Networks virtual conference on how we switched to Engaging Networks in one month. So I think that's probably still there. And we did all the things you do, massive data clean, which was fantastic, because there was, when you start poking around, you find things that really, really shouldn't have been there. Redesign of the donation pages, all the sort of usual things that we run through. And because we were doing this, because what we really wanted to do is ramp up their advocacy for supporter engagement, build our supporter base, target people for membership, and just test. And this is the sort of formula we were using, and none of this is rocket science. You'd have seen this kind of thing again and again and again. It's the supporter funnel. How do we get new people in? So we start with our ads, make sure we target them properly. We'll come onto that a bit more in a second. Once we get someone to click on an ad, we need them to get onto a sign-up form. It's nice to see the session in front of us. We very much agree with everything that was being said about that. How do we get that to work better? Then we get them onto a welcome journey, and then once we've got them through that, it's very much like, okay, how do we then move them to being even more valuable supporters? And just to sort of say, to become a supporter, it's just pretty much opt in to receive emails from us. That's our very low ask at the top of the funnel, and we want to move them down into becoming much more valuable members and supporters as they move forward. So how do we go about it? We did a range of things. We didn't rely on just one area. We've done a lot of joint petitions with other organisations, which actually helps us grow quite a bit, as well as just the advertising route. And obviously that's really valuable because you don't have to pay so much for it. But really we've centred our growth around Facebook and done a lot of work about working out who is our target audience. loads and loads and loads of testing, and it's got harder and harder with the changes that Facebook have made. We found a fantastic audience, which was basically independent and Guardian readers. And who knew? And Facebook took that away a year ago, which is still hurts us a little bit. But so we've been trying to find these groups through other audiences. But just lots of testing. We're a small team, but we found we can run tests very, very quickly. And we've done things like target people that are interested in nature or climate. That often sort of reconnects us with those independent and Guardian readers again. And there's lots of different areas we've done. And the kind of ads we've been running are just really, really simple ads. The previous speaker sort of talked about a massive 12 days of work to do this amazing test, which didn't make any difference. Well, I think around Facebook ads, sometimes there's a bit of that goes on as well. We try and get the perfect creative, and then you stick it up, and then it's clear after about 24 hours that it's just not working. And what is a Facebook ad, really? It's an image, 20-odd words, and that's about it. So we very much sort of chose to do lots of really clean, simple ads and just try stuff, and then follow the stats to see what worked. And then we move on to our ongoing battle, which is our sign-up forms. This, every time we think we've got this, it stops working over time. And it's how do you keep it getting better sign-up pages? And ours have evolved, in fact, since we put these up. And this is definitely the area that we would totally accept that we've got the most scope for improvement. But that makes such a difference to whether the money you're spending on Facebook advertising is effective or not. In fact, the ads, kind of easy. This is the bit which makes the big, big difference. And then finally, we're going to come on to the welcome journey. Now, I don't have great figures for a welcome journey, so I can show you, because the first thing we did was implement a welcome journey. But I used to work at Which, and we didn't have a welcome journey there, and we put one in, and we had all the figures from before and after. And we can definitely tell you from that the difference having a really strong welcome journey makes to the retention of supporters, particularly people that join and then never do anything else. With a really good welcome journey that encourages them to take another action, very often, you can massively improve the number of supporters that stay active. And what we have in our welcome journey isn't loads of brand new creative stuff. It's actually the greatest hits. So the best emails we've done in the last 3 months kind of end up on our welcome journey because the people who are coming on there didn't see them. And so long as they're still relevant and work, we use them for that. So there we go. Pass it over to Grace.
This is just a graph showing the general recruitment of new supporters over the time since we switched to Engaging Networks in March 21. So a nice positive upward trajectory there. But the other thing I just wanted to point out in this graph is that you can see the power of being able to respond really quickly to events. So you can see a big spike last autumn when politics was obviously eventful. But then you can also see, so November 2021 is sort of significant because that's when the sort of beginning of all the scandals that engulfed the Johnson administration started. And so I'll talk a bit more about this later, but just it's not just, you can have the best sort of ads in place and the best welcome journey, but if you aren't responding to events quickly as they arise, it's also, you're missing a big opportunity there. So this is what it looks like in reality. This is our funnel. This was actually October 2022, so a bit out of date now, but the story is the same. So you can see that we have people coming on the list, and then so some of them will take an action, some of them will take more than one action, a smaller amount of them will donate, and then finally, at the bottom of the funnel, you've got those who eventually become members. It does take time for people to get down the funnel, so you won't see results immediately. We also, what was interesting is this, when we separated out the people who joined in 2021 versus people who joined in 2022, more of those 2021 joiners had made their way down to becoming members, as you would expect, because they've just been on the list longer. And then if you look at people who joined us before that, even more of them. So it sounds obvious, but just worth bearing in mind when you're looking at your data. So how do we get people to make their way down that funnel? The key is just keep talking to them and keep asking them to do things. Again, stating the obvious, but if you want people to care about what it is you want them to care about, they have to know that you exist in the first place. And they won't know that you exist if you're not in front of their eyes in their inboxes on a regular basis and asking them to be part of what you do. So you're not just telling them what you're doing, you're saying, be part of it, sign this petition, write to your MP, maybe even make a donation. We've also, just to echo what Jack said in his presentation, daisy chains, amazing. If you're not doing them, definitely they really work. Getting someone's attention, it's really difficult to do in this day and age. Lots of competing demands on our attention. So once you've got it, make the most of it, milk it for all it's worth. If someone's done something for you already, they're very likely to do another thing if you ask them immediately. So yeah, worth bearing in mind. And so just a little bit on the final stage of that funnel is converting someone to become a member of Unlock Democracy, which is our most engaged supporters are our members. The question that we always ask is, why would someone want to be a member of Unlock Democracy and not any other organization? There are so many amazing campaigning organizations out there, so why us? And we tested a lot of messaging in the early days, like broad testing of general messaging to find out what worked. And the answer for us, at least, was it's not about what they're getting out of being a membership in terms of a transaction, but it is just that sense of belonging. So being part of the campaign, taking those actions, feeling like you're a part of something kind of bigger than you. I also just want to mention that, again, shout back to the last presentation, look at what other people are doing and copy them, because there's so many amazing organizations campaigning. I just wanted to give credit to both Liberty and Dignity in Dying, just to name two who we've definitely taken inspiration from in our membership drives and membership comms. So definitely do that. You don't have to be original to find something that works. And one more thing that's really worked for us, actually, I want to say, is a low entry-level subscription rate. So our membership starts from just £1 a month, and before we used to sort of hide that a bit because we obviously would prefer that people pay more than £1 a month. But then we sort of did some testing with, so we put that front and center. So that was the click button in the email, join today for £1. And we were surprised to see that lots of people clicked through because of that, £1. It's just £1, of course I'll click. And then, as you can see in the pie chart on the right there, the majority are actually ending up paying more. So that hook rate was really effective. That's something that's worked for us. If you haven't tried it, I'd recommend you test it. So yeah. And then just quickly, these are the results from our last 2 years of campaigning with Engaging Networks. So we've managed to recruit 30,000 new supporters since February 2021. And we've grown our membership from 1,600 to 2,000 to 500. And we've seen a big jump in online donations, obviously thanks to all those new people coming on the books and working their way down that funnel to become donors. And boring but important, underpinning it all our data is stored securely. We know exactly what we've got, where it is. We know we're compliant. And I think one thing that's easy to forget is we wouldn't have had the confidence to do all this testing, all this growth, if we didn't know that we could rely on our database being secure, well-organized, clean, etc. So, last of all, 5 lessons from the last 5 years. Just to repeat myself, send more emails, include actions in them. Then you're just getting in front of people more, and you're getting them to be part of your campaign rather than just observing it, and that will help them get down that funnel. Keep doing what works for as long as it works. Again, I've said it already, you don't have to always be thinking of new things, always being original. If something works, just keep doing it. And yeah, so sometimes the obvious solution is actually the best one. Having said that, things will get stale. Your best performing page, eventually your supporters will get used to it and becomes less effective. So you never should stop testing new things. I think a challenge that we're really working on at the moment is just getting in the habit of always trying new things rather than sort of waiting until we realize that things are not working anymore before we start testing something new. It's also worth bearing in mind, as we have again saw in the previous presentation, that the majority of tests will actually fail. Most of the time, it makes no difference. But it's for those that like 10% of times when you hit on something that really does work that maybe you weren't expecting, that you just need to get in the habit of just testing all the time. And then, yep, I've already spoken about the database. It's not fun, but it's definitely worth it. When we started in our roles, ready and raring to go with loads of ideas of what to do, we were not expecting to spend 2 months sorting out our database, but we did, and 1,000% say it was worth it. And finally, yeah, I said this already, be able to respond quickly to events. We're a really, really tiny team. One of the advantages of that is we don't have to go through layers and layers of sign-off to get stuff out. We can do it pretty quickly. But even if that's not the case for you, look into ways that you can streamline those processes so you can be jumping on things as they happen. I think from that graph I showed you a few minutes ago, you can see that it has a real impact on your ability to recruit new supporters, turn them to donors, etc. That's it from us, I think. If any questions?
Just grab the mic. Okay, thanks. Remember and put your questions onto Slido if you get a second. We've got one in from Anonymous. It's always a good start. So what does this campaign look like for the next 18 months? Good luck.
So given that we're in a space room tonight, and this is the Apollo room we're in, I think people around campaigning are always looking to have like perfectly planned missions, like missions to the moon, and this is going to happen at this time, that's going to happen at that time, all the way through. And I think campaigning, particularly in politics right now, and particularly for the next 18 months, is going to be like Apollo 13. Everything, you can plan as much as you like. From a week-to-week basis, you just don't know what's going to happen. And agility is going to be absolutely key. And literally, we try to plan weeks and months. We obviously, some of our more bigger campaigns have much more structure to them. We know we've got events coming up. We know we're going to do something on a certain week. But so much of, in the political field right now, it just changed. Boris Johnson's honours list came out like with an hour's notice. And so we need to do an email on that straight away. We need to talk to supporters about that. We need to have an action on that. So we are going. I think the next 18 months is going to be a little bit mental in terms of just being ready to move at the slightest moment. And to be honest, one of the most important things in the next 18 months is what happens after the general election. Because if there is a change of government, then organisations like us, and probably a lot of you in the room, that is going to be a huge moment to engage. So, yeah, we've got a lot of plans, but don't expect any certainty in the next 18 months.
Yeah, agreed. I think just on a real practical level, we've obviously been focusing on recruitment a lot in the last 2 years. So there will be a bit of a shift in the next 18 months to sort of deepening that engagement more and getting sort of more value out of our existing supporters. But yeah, as Sean says, we just don't know what's going to happen in the next 18 months. So.
Thanks. I've got quite a few questions here. So what did you do to sort out your database?
Oh, this is great. Yeah. So we had a database, an old database. So in some form, we've existed since 1988. So we had an enormous database on a different platform that we transferred over. But so the main challenge with that was making sure we were only transferring over the data that we needed. So we did a big audit of the old database and essentially excluded anyone that hadn't engaged with us for, I think it was about 5 years from memory. 5 years. So that was essentially where we were starting from. So it wasn't that we didn't have any data, it's that we had too much, and we had to weed out the huge amounts that were not relevant to us anymore, and also that we probably shouldn't have had on file anyway. So yeah. Anything to add? No.
That's good.
Do you send DM appeals to people in your ongoing email journeys? And if so, do you find they respond well compared to traditional DM donors?
By DM direct mail, right? Yeah, okay, just checking. Yes, we do that. That is, again, it's something that it's a traditional that thing that because we've been around since before email existed. Yeah, so we also do have some supporters who we don't actually have email addresses for. That's an unusual position. So yeah, we send quarterly direct mail to our most engaged supporters, and we have people who just donate to them very regularly. And I think one really good thing that's come out of using Engaging Networks is we can now much more easily identify who those really reliable direct mail donors are. So we're only spending the money contacting those people. We have been doing some experimentation as well with contacting new supporters by direct mail. And yeah, sort of still analysing the results of that. But yeah, I think does that answer your question? I hope it was.
Okay, thanks. So could you walk us through an example welcome journey that's from Balu?
Right, so the purpose of a welcome journey is not to try and indoctrinate people into the organisation to a really high degree. The purpose of our welcome journey is to get people to take another action. And what we could see, so this is from my previous work when I was at Which, is the difference that you made to a supporter if they actually engage with, essentially engage the second time or a third time, because then you could track that supporter and just look at them a year later. Someone who didn't take a second action has almost gone, dropped off the list. Any money you spent acquiring them is a waste. But someone who gets to make an action on that welcome journey generally becomes a much more active supporter. So all the things on the welcome journey are designed to get their low-level bar things, trying to get people to take action. The first thing on the welcome journey actually is a survey, but it's a really short, simple survey. It's tell us what you want. I mean, I almost want to say this. It's kind of like dating, some of this. It's about building a relationship. And I think that sometimes there's a danger at the start of that. An organisation starts to say, here's what you need to know about us. And actually what we're trying to do is say, no, tell us about you and ask questions and show common ground. And as I said, using some of the emails that we know performed really, really well with our supporters on our strongest campaigns makes a huge, huge difference. And something I'd advise, I did this back at Which, is basically go sign up for loads of different organisations and see what you get on the welcome journeys, because there's a lot of really, really great stuff out there if you're looking for ideas.
Okay. Can you describe your membership programme more? What does monthly membership include, and what are the benefits you see to this?
Sure, it's a really good question, because we are the nature of the organisation is that we don't provide a service or anything like that to our members. So being a member of Unlock Democracy is really like being a member of a political party, so you're joining so that you can sort of take part in the internal democracy of the organisation, but it's also really more of the sort of an identity thing of I care about this issue. So what our members get is they can vote at the AGM, they can stand for our governing council. We do a members newsletter every month and occasionally sort of members-only events, but that is it really, and that explains why we have such a low kind of barrier to entry for membership, because it's really more of a kind of being part of the club rather than kind of getting something in return for your money.
Yeah. Membership is heart, not head. It's being part of that movement, and we do the things, some members surveys. We give them that kind of engagement and being at the middle of it all.
Okay, thanks. So what are some of the ways you've involved supporters in policy and campaign activity?
Kind of all the usual stuff, really. We have some in-person events that we invite supporters along. We do the advocacy to MPs. Just recently, we took part in a big, comparatively big lobby of Parliament with organisations like the Electoral Reform Society that's sitting here. So we had a big sort the system rally, lobby of MPs, where we invited supporters from all over the country to come down to Parliament to talk to their MP about PR. It's just lots of different ways. I mean, I've worked on the political side as well. I am always a little bit sceptical about the value of emails into MPs, and so that we don't do lots of that. But what I will say is peers and counsellors, although they might have less power, don't get anything like as much email, and we do quite a bit of stuff to those guys, very often individual from supporters and sometimes from ourselves. So, yeah.
Thanks. I think we've got time for one more question here. Yeah, I've got seconds. Okay, 30K new supporters is great. What's your monthly Facebook ad spend?
It varies, but to get that, we spent, I think, approximately £20,000 to get those 30,000 supporters. And we're on a bigger project now, and it's proving, because we had to prove effectively proof of concept. And I think we did proof of concept, so we have more money to spend. But actually, it's this last, I'll be honest, I think probably for most people, the last 9 months since the financial crash, it's been harder on fundraising, it's been harder on membership. We've managed to buck that trend a bit, but everything has been that little bit harder. So
okay, thank you.
We're going for it.
Can I really quickly say, just also on the £1 membership thing, I forgot to mention, like that has also proved resilient through the cost of living crisis, because again, it's just that way of just keeping your members with you because it's such a low amount. So just thought I'd throw that in.
Thank you. Okay, so that's Grace and Sean from Unlock Democracy. Thanks very much.